calling the meeting to order at 6:30. I would like to recognize that we have Ian Keel, BCTV, Steve Lemke, Miranda Porsche, and Don McLean here. Don, are you here in place of Rick Zamor, or is he coming
No,
too?
the two of us are scheduled to be here together, and I assume he'll be along any second.
Okay, thank you. One thing that I always say at the beginning of every meeting is that underneath the sign-out sheet are the rules of procedure for the select board meetings in general. And if you have any questions, please refer to them. Are there any additions to the agenda this evening?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move on to, are there any changes to the agenda order? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the special meeting that we had on January 3rd.
So moved.
Gabby and Troy were not here, so
That was close.
I know, right, up on the roof. Dick moved to adopt the minutes. Would that be you, Gordon?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gabby and
Aye.
Troy are abstaining. Thank you. Motion passed. New business. Actually, you're on, Don. Would you like me to move you to second? Or would you like me
Perfect
to,
timing.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
just go right ahead.
would you like me to give Rick a minute to take a
Rick,
breath?
since you're already on your feet, just go ahead and start talking.
Look at it, you just flew in.
Hi, camera. Here's a diagram
We can share.
of. I'm Rick Zamor. I am here as the Building and Grounds Chair, Committee Chair of the Brogbrook Community Center, and I am here to just present an update on our septic system test pits, which are on that map there. There are 7 pits dug. We discovered that we need a mound system if and when the BBC buys the building. We'll need a mound system, which is, by no means the end of the world. But the groundwater is only 3 feet down from, particularly on the town lot there, actually on both sides. So what we are proposing is that we would like to ask the town for permission to put a septic system, if required, which it probably will be, on the town lot, and the lot between the Grange and the library. We've got a preliminary drawing from Stevens and Associates for a mound system, and it shows that we need about 10% of that lot, including the slopes around the mound system for the entire thing. What we'd like is for the select board to give us permission. If you're not willing to do that, we will ask for an article on the warning for the town meeting. And if so, we would hope that you would place it on the warning so that we don't have to gather 80 signatures in order to get permission to put it on the warning.
Well, I think with that said, and the test done, and Peter checked into it, and it's we can do this, correct?
Well, there's problems there that I don't know if they looked at yet or not.
Okay.
We can, technically,
There's a well right there, artesian well right there.
Well, there can't be any, the state requires that any septic system be 200 feet from a well. So as long as we're 200 feet from a well, we're okay.
I think, my suggestion would be for the Grange to buy a piece of land from the town to put that on, because you can have big liability word again if you put a mound system in there and something happens to it. Who's gonna be liable, you or the town?
the other option is for the town to gift it to the BBCC, being that it's a non-profit, or for $1 we can, some nominal amount of money, sell it if we don't want the liability and it doesn't make sense for the town to own.
Yeah,
It's another
I
option.
just think that,
Can we do that according to the deed?
That was my next question was, what does the deed say?
So
I don't
can
know.
everybody just, I'm trying to, so Dickie said sell a portion of the lot to BBCC, which means it's not taxable to the town, but it would be a taxable, once you guys owned it, it would be taxable to
It's
the
taxes,
nonprofits
yeah.
are not exempt from taxes.
I know the butter is very upset about what's going on there. He's asked a lot of questions he didn't get answers for.
Well, who's he asked questions to?
Well, number one, is the Grange still intact or does it belong to, is the Grange defunct?
No, not at all.
And, no, I don't think anybody's approached it.
The abutter? I'm not sure we need to, I don't think anybody needs to approach the abutter.
Well,
It
I think
says
the
well,
issue-
it says well, they're gonna be affected.
No, I think it's Stevens Associates needs to know where all the wells are.
Yeah.
Before they can submit a septic
Yeah.
plan. And Stevens Associates is doing that. They're doing the research on
So,
all of that.
And that's what I was gonna, that's based on these quadrants, so you've got 4 test holes, basically, on that piece of property you're talking about. They haven't selected a specific one yet.
No, no,
Gotcha.
and whatever, assuming we need that the septic system on that lot, which is
Right.
likely, according to state law, it has to be 200 feet from any
From
existing
any
well.
Mhm.
And as
Right.
long as it's 200 feet from a well,
Right.
it's fine to install it.
Right.
Which is speaking now as a BBCC board member, not a select board member. So the test pits, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all perked.
They all perked.
The issue.
Well, they
oh,
perked. Yeah, no, they all perked with a mound system.
Mound system.
Yeah.
The issue being that which is likely the BBCC, in order to sprinkle the Grange, will need to have a well likely on the Grange property, which makes it, in order to sprinkle the Grange, or what will be the Broadbrook Community Center, there will need to be a well drilled on the Grange property, which makes it basically impossible for there to be a mound on the Grange property per se, which is why it'll need to be, if possible, shifted over to the town lot. But it needs to be within, state statute of whatever, anyone's well.
Yeah.
Including if there's an abutter
The
or
distance from the well to the mound.
to the septic. So it's not like I don't think anybody intends to put a septic and,
Right.
cause a problem with somebody else's well. In fact, I don't think that they could legally.
Well, that's his issue, part of his issue, and I just think before we jump through the hoop, we don't know where the hoop's gonna be.
So unfortunately, Peter's not here, but he does have some research.
He had pulled the deed.
Yeah.
So I think what Peter had said is that we can give an easement under the well,
Yeah, the town could convey the easement to BBCC. 2 options are, the town and BBCC would need to come to a tentative written agreement regarding the easement. The proposal would need to be posted in the usual town locations, plus a newspaper. It must be posted for a minimum of 30 days prior to the deal being completed. Town residents would then need to petition in order for it to be added to the town meeting, or another similar vote. In other words, they would have to protest, or they would have to object, or ask for the town to vote on the transfer of property. If nobody petitioned, then the select board can act. So it might be,
So is there time to do all that before town meeting if somebody does object?
no, I don't think so.
So what are our
Another-
Is there time to put it on the town
Another option is
meeting
for us to just put it on at town
Square.
meeting
and let it go to
and let it go to the
meeting?
town right away.
Well, if you're willing to do that, I think Don's got some wording for an article.
And also, a little bit of clarification is that we're not asking for the easement at this moment. This is a provisional request, and this is in the event that BBCC purchases the property. If for any reason that doesn't go through, then there's no
Issue.
there's no easement, no need for an easement, and
Purchases
BBCC.
purchases the Grange property.
Yes. I'm gonna get a little bit closer
So-
here because I feel sort of,
Yeah, step right up here, come on.
Why not?
Then,
well, I don't stand around.
so if you needed to,
Tall
purchase,
guy.
if you go ahead with purchasing the Grange property, then you would need approval
Yes.
of the town.
Yeah, the point of what we're working on at this moment is to ascertain that the town would be willing to do this. And the reason for that is that the BBCC has determined that there are certain things that we want to be sure of to make the purchase of the building viable, which is why we went to Stevens and did this preliminary work. If Stevens came back and said there's absolutely no way that you can have a well or no way you can have a septic, then at that point the whole project doesn't fly. So that was the idea, was to get the sense of the town that this would be something the town would be willing to do in that event. And the sale is not, the transfer of ownership is not imminent, although we hope maybe within a year or so. So that, I just want to make that.
So these perk tests show that it would be viable if you had the mound.
Yes. But as we expected was probably going to be the case, what Stevens came up with, because the parcel of land the Grange is on is very small, there's not room on that property for both a viable drilled well and an adequate septic system to handle the projected use of the building. So that forces us into looking at the other adjacent property, and obviously that formerly Anthony Field is the obvious place for something like that.
Well, and for what it's worth, one of our board members, Laura Lawson Tucker, spoke with the Anthonys this weekend, and they're very much in favor of the BBCC project, and they see that as a very good use for the properties they donated to the town.
Has anyone spoken to Marvin Spooner yet?
Dick, we just found out about this last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that should be taken care of before we move forward.
Well, I think with anything, I mean, that's one of the reasons for either putting on town warrant, putting on town meeting to get a sense. But no matter what, even if we tried to transfer an easement, there would be a public notice in time for people to protest. I mean, I'm not saying that we should be speaking to him earlier, but
other sides also. I mean, I don't think anybody's talked to
anyone.
Gary Gold.
Well, for town meeting, can we work on hypotheticals, as Don just kind of outlined, and say,
We could have a non-binding vote, yay or nay. How would the
know?
town, if the BBCC were to
Right.
acquire the Grange property, should this, should the town
should the town support?
grant an easement?
I mean, any other business,
Did
right?
you have
End of the
wording
meeting.
already prepared for
Could be under
this?
other.
Just in case, yeah.
Would you mind?
Would
you mind
sharing that?
Well, Rick, I mean, do you think that's a viable option,
I'd
basically?
rather have an article on the
Copy
warrant
of this.
than have it come up under other business. But maybe it doesn't matter. I mean,
I considered the possibility of
I mean,
both.
usually by the end of the meeting, there's a pretty small crowd,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
it's I'd rather have it settled with an article, that because I think people will see an article and say we voted on this and it passed. If it comes up under other business, that may not be the case.
Yeah, it's true.
And to give people notice that we
Yeah.
are gonna vote
No, I
rather
think
than
that
just,
makes-
we have
There's a reason we
I'm
sent
not
you to
against
moderator
the
school.
concerns.
But no, that makes
No,
sense.
it's just
No, I agree.
I think
I
that makes
think it's
sense.
a good idea. And I think if we're concerned about liability and issues, that it makes sense to also consider the possibility of just deeding it to the
Right.
Grange.
Mm-hmm.
If the town does not believe it should be a land, owning pieces of land, and if there is no purpose.
Right.
Yeah, the Anthony's, what the report was from the Anthony's was that, in the deed it says no structures. And so the question was, is there anybody likely to interpret this as a structure? And obviously they are not the owners anymore, so they have no say in that, except that they are the ones who put the intent on that property. And their intent, as they continue apparently to say, is that they simply wanted it to stay open land because it's the only open land in that kind of village center. And their desire was not to have houses built on it.
Right.
That was the whole point. And if that had gone to public sale, that would be a perfect house site, obviously, at some point. So that was the idea, was to keep it open. And they're very interested in the whole future idea of the Grange as a real community center. So they're very supportive of this.
So do you
Yeah.
want to read this to?
I haven't.
Well, I think one of us should read it, shouldn't we? Well, he could read it, but we'll
Yeah,
have to.
I mean, I've
we'll have
got
to
it
make a
in
motion.
yeah, I've got them.
Donna, would you like to read that?
Shall the town grant an easement to the Broadbrook Community Center, Inc. to locate a septic leach field and parking spaces, which we haven't talked about, on town parcel number 240.2 to the Broadbrook Community Center, Inc., in the event that organization acquires the property of the Grange.
Well, could we include the possible, deeding of the property to the?
That's an alternative possibility instead of
So
an
either
easement. Obviously, the Grange and Broadbrook Community Center would both be happy to own that land, and it makes sense in a lot of ways. And as some of you may know, the Anthonys originally offered it to the Grange when they sold those other parcels to the town, or gave those other parcels to the town behind the library and up by the schoolhouse. And they thought that it made the most sense for the field to go to the Grange, because the Grange has traditionally used it as overflow parking for events and so forth, and because it just kind of seems to go with the building. And at the last minute, they learned that they would not be able to get a tax deduction for doing that, because the Grange is 501c8 under the IRS code as a fraternal society and does not have the chops to do that. And so at the last minute, they decided to deed it to the town instead, because the town could give them the tax exemption. And that's why the town, in fact, owns it.
So you were talking about deeding the lot in its entirety.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess Dick suggested part of it, but I'm not sure that makes sense, because then you gotta
It
go chop it
doesn't
up.
really make sense to deed part of the lot, does it?
And then you gotta survey it.
I would say we need to know where the hoop's gonna be before we jump through it, that's all.
Yeah. So,
I think what I'm gonna do is, I would like to make the motion that we, a special article for the warning for town meeting day, that shall the town grant the easement to the Broadbrook Community Center, Inc. to locate a leach field, septic leach field and parking spaces on town parcel 240.2 to the Broadbrook Community Center, Inc. in the event that the organization acquires the property of Broadbrook Grange, or deeding the lot to the Broadbrook Community Center / Grange.
Troy moved,
I'll second.
Gordon seconded. Any more discussion?
Do you need to know how that will be determined, whether it's a easement or a deed, or the?
Wouldn't that be
Transfer?
wouldn't that be part of the decision made
That's
at
what I'm
town
saying,
meeting?
that's part of the decision at town meeting.
So town meeting would decide
Yeah.
which.
Which of those two? Is that what you mean?
Which of those two?
And I would assume that you would, the
Present it.
BBCC would present
Very specific.
justifications
Easement
for why
or
one
deed
or
the
the
lot.
other.
Right.
Right. That's why I said
Steve.
or.
The only caution I would have is if at some point there's a third change of ownership down the road, that BBCC doesn't exist anymore, and then the property gets sold, does this easement or deed apply to anybody who owns that piece of property then, or is it just for this group? I think it's easy to get blinded by the desire to have this group succeed. It's not so easy 10 years from now to go, how come they own this and the land and now there's a house there?
Well, there couldn't be a.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
but I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
I think there should be
No, I
one
think that's a good
proviso that
point.
says, provided that it is and remains this project, not a sold property.
Sure.
I think probably you could put something like that in.
It
That's
shall
a
revert
very
to the
good
town
point.
in the event of the sale of the Grange building.
We should check our bylaws, though, because it specifically says what we do with our assets. Don would know. If, in the event that it
Right, a
dissolves.
nonprofit is required by law, if it ceases to exist, to convey its assets to usually another nonprofit. It could be the town. We may have even mentioned the town. I'm not sure
We
if
did, I
I think we did. I think we said in another nonprofit or the
Or
town of
town.
Guilford in our bylaws. So BBCC ceases to exist. The idea was in the future there was a concern down the road that if the BBCC ceased to exist in 50 years, that there would be the provision for that property to revert to the town so that it would remain a public building and not be bought, just go on the open market. which of course is the same issue we have with the ownership of the Grange to begin with. If the Grange ceases to exist, it reverts to the state Grange, and then you have no control over what happens to the premises, so.
And I'd also say, check, I mean, we can check with the lawyers, but the deed that the Anthony's, the deed from the Anthony's to the town said no structures, so
Right.
that's gonna
go.
follow us,
That'll
so
follow
it's
it,
not
right.
like if it got transferred again, all of a sudden someone can build on that
Yeah.
lot.
Right. It's a covenant, so
It's
that's.
also the reason that an easement might be an easier situation to deal with than deeding the entire piece of property, you know? Because if the town is giving an easement, it's still the town land.
So, would it be appropriate to amend the motion to say to include said property to revert to town ownership if there's a change of ownership of BBCC ownership in the future?
That sounds
That
like a
The
good
building
amendment.
too? Or, oh, you mean just for the parcel?
Just for the
Said
parcel.
Just for
property.
that piece, and that,
Just for the said parcel. That, I would, yes,
Amend your motion.
I amend my motion.
and I second the amended motion.
Oh, my
Emotion.
backside. Are we a Wyndham Solid Waste Management?
Steve, thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody
Abstain.
opposed? Gabby's abstaining.
She's abstained.
Okay, so you'll put it on the warning.
Yes, sir.
Good. All right, and Dick, we will talk to the Spinners on the other matters.
He's very, very upset.
He doesn't need to worry.
No, I don't know why you need to be, because the state has rules about that, right? I don't-
Right, they're not gonna issue you a wastewater permit before they come out and look, they'll come out and cross their Ts and dot their Is.
On the broad
It's the
too.
idea of somebody digging in my backyard, though it's not my property, but they're digging in my backyard.
Okay, hold on just a second.
and-
Hold on. The same thing happened to me when my neighbor put their house in and their well and their septic and everything like that. All I could do is stand there and watch them drop the trees and start building.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is no zoning in this town, and that's how the people have spoke of it. So, they're gonna go talk to their neighbors, and then if everything goes all right, they're gonna put their leach field in.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
No, thank you
guys.
You don't want to say for the rest of the action?
Oh, sorry, I gotta go.
See you, Rick.
What a priority.
The next item on business is next item on the agenda is to complete our discussion, to approve the budget as proposed, the general and the highway budget as proposed.
I move
I'm not finished yet.
Also,
In our budget workshops for presentation to town meeting.
I move we approve the highway and general budget as proposed to present to town meeting.
I second, Mr. Clerk.
Just because I'm doing this for Troy seconded. Any further discussion after all of our hours of working all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Anybody abstaining? No. Motion passed. Is there any, no, we have no old business tonight?
Thank you, Sheila, for really taking the lead on our
Okay,
budgeting
and
process.
I want to
too.
say Peter did great work.
Peter did too.
We all did good work in our sessions, and Pete and Penny
Yes,
contributed enormously to this process. So
great. Well
I
done.
hope I don't see another
Aye.
budget thing for days, but
With you guys in mind and body.
Spirit.
Spirit.
discussion updates, the only thing I have is that we don't have a budget workshop on the 23rd at our meeting. So take that off your calendars, everybody. And the reason we don't is that we have just approved the budgets for presentation to the town. Next on the agenda is the highway general update. Dan said he was gonna be here, but
He could be asleep in his recliner. They started early this morning.
they did. He
Yeah.
did say that the 2012 big truck, I saw it get hauled away this afternoon.
Mhm.
Something is, something with a T. isn't
Hydraulic.
working. Huh?
Transmission?
No.
No.
Something with
No,
a T?
it's not the transmission. Oh my god, I can't remember.
Transfer.
Case?
Transfer case.
No,
It
it's,
could be.
no,
Oh.
no. I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Just be impressed that it's a 2012 truck and they've got Hollyway for repairs. That's his, and,
But, no.
but not sufficient.
Anyway,
And
there's an issue.
there's an issue.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we still have money in the budget for that. Excess weight permits are none. Troy,
What?
finance.
I don't wanna.
Got
I would-
this in your last 3 meetings.
I would like to make the motion that we pay payroll of week ending 1/8/17 for $6,387.14. Expense warrant 17/13 for $11,220 even,
And there's no other, I'm sorry.
and no other. So for a total of warrants and payroll for $17,607.52. And the biggest issue was the $2,783 for salt, which we are going through a lot of it.
Second.
Who, oh, Troy moved, sorry. Troy moved, Gabby seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
No discussion, but they've gone through more than 2/3 of the sand they hauled in last fall. So they're hauling sand back.
They're hauling sand, and unfortunately with the rain and everything, it's freezing before we get it here in the shed. And Mother Nature is a...
You thought this was gonna be a simple meeting,
I
right?
did. What's that big packet of information?
This is a copy of the petition filed by Green Lantern Solar Group for the GLC Powersmith Margery C. Evans Solar Project. And they filed it with the Vermont Public Service Board today, and this is just all the documents that they had to file for this
You
thing.
can take it home and read it tonight. And
Yeah,
call
that'll
us
be
all.
for you, Gabby. And if anybody wants to look at it, it's right here. But if we have nothing to do, we just need to know that we got it.
My only comment on that is I wish that solar field wouldn't happen
So
because of its location.
the one thing that I noticed, is that they have said someplace in here that there is going to be no substantial aesthetic impact because it's not gonna be visible very much from the road or to the neighbors. So it's in there.
I wanna know who benefits from
So we
this.
can, this is supposed to be the one that is
I
for
won't.
the benefit
That's
of
the
the
one
town.
benefit of the town.
Yeah, that
That
people
anybody
can
can buy
subscribe
into
to.
it.
I'm just, the amount of bureaucracy that goes into drawing up that document. But you will keep your mouth shut.
Steve, sorry.
Gabby, you're gonna look at that stack.
Mhm.
As I understand it from conversation the other day regarding about the flood regulation, that a solar group has to submit a certificate of public good. Is that in there?
Petition for certificate of public good.
Is that the entire stack?
Yes. And they've also mentioned in here that it, let me just go through a couple things. Sorry. They've looked at headwaters, outstanding resource waters, floodways, streams, shorelines, wetlands, soil erosion, traffic during construction, aesthetics, noise, historic sites,
I bet they didn't go up on Melody Hill and went down, did they?
and
We'd have to come down off of Initiation Hill a little bit to see it.
rare and irreplaceable natural areas, necessary wildlife habitat and endangered species, etc. So it's all in the first few pages.
Rare and irreplaceable. Here. That's interesting.
Oh, so I have a question. Sheila, this is the place that's above Margery Evans's?
No.
No.
Across the
Oh,
road.
This is across the
Oh,
road by
across
the
behind Gary
pond,
Evans.
Okay,
behind, across from the pond, up on the backside on where all the white pines up in
okay.
that area are.
all right.
So technically, yeah, the only way that you could probably see it is if you go up to the top of Melody
Yeah.
Hill up there at the power lines and look down on it.
Mm-hmm.
You might catch a little bit of it when you're coming
Yeah,
down Weatherhead
no.
Island Road about this time of year and
Well,
stuff like
Margery
that.
seemed to think he could see it pretty well from where he's at.
You might be able to.
Who is that?
Rob Heinrich's Henry.
Yeah.
well, up to his property and stuff like that, so.
Well, there have been, yeah. Oh,
But it's here.
He was-
Anybody wants to look
Yeah.
at it, it's right here.
The second item of communication is that we have a letter of resignation from Katie Buckley, and I'm going to read it. With sincere regret, she's addressed this to the Wyndham Regional Commission.
Mhm.
With sincere regret, I must inform you that I resigned from my role as Commissioner for the Wyndham Regional Commission. I have been asked to serve as the Commissioner for the Department of Housing and Community Development in the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. I will be living in Montpelier part-time with a hefty commute in between, which won't leave me any time for participation on the local level. Additionally, it presents a conflict with my new role. It has been an honor to serve Wyndham Regional Commission. Our Regional Planning Commission, especially Wyndham Regional Commission, are an essential part of the framework supporting our Vermont towns. I feel fortunate that I can now serve at the state level to be part of this structure in a broader way. Best of luck to you and your team in the future. Best regards, Katie Buckley. So that means that we have a vacancy in the town, and we should appoint someone to serve in her place. But I don't know right now the details of appointing somebody, so I think I'd like to save that for another meeting, just to,
And I'd be willing to do it if you wanted to.
you want me to put you down as volunteering to serve?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think it's probably
Love that
fine.
stuff.
You gotta get out of the Green River. There's some funky stuff over there on that side of the hill.
Making me do crazy things.
Just kidding, Steve.
The last communication that I'm really pleased to share is that we encourage Lisa Berry, who is on our listers, to start becoming accredited with the different, it's level 1 through 4, with, let me see, the Vermont assessors something, it's some, which is, I could go back into old history, but I won't. It's, so she's getting accredited.
Yes.
She's completed the course, she can now apply for her first level of accreditation. She did this in pretty, like, within 2 months of being asked to do this, so I would like, I'm gonna ask Peter to commend her for doing that, just on behalf of the select board, so.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm sorry, also, so we have no executive session, and unless there is any surprise business, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Yeah,
Second.
Which one of you goes?
I did second.
Troy seconded.
stole my thunder.
Anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.